te rātai, kia piki te kaha te ora, i rātai, e roto i te lingua. E te ato kārau, ko te tiki mai tēnei kia pē, te noho tahi nei, ke wai nungi, te amata tēnei rā tēnei ata. Te kaha nei wai nungi te kārau mātou kōreu, te ringa nā tautoko te rui atata. Te ato ko tēnei tiki mai tēnei kia pē, tōna tēnei tau mo taku.
Can we just, I'd like to inform the meeting that this is our, we've been live streamed. We have apologies from Andrea. Any further apologies? I think I heard the young ministers are coming in, watching, and Kathy, so they won't be too far away. So someone move the apology, please. Seconder, Gary, all those in favour say aye. Contrary, carry. And I have, we're not finished by midday. I need to leave by then, and hand over to you, Andrea. We're still going. Are there any late announcements for your agenda? No? Okay, carry on. Our minutes from the previous meeting. You all received minutes? Any matters from those minutes? If someone moved that was present at that meeting, please have moved those minutes. Thank you, Jill. Seconder. Aye. Leo, thank you, Leo. All those in favour say aye. Contrary, carried. Tēnei wā, mihi ana kia kōrua ngā mema hau, kia koe no, kia koe hoki te rangatira res, tēnei tā kōrua tainga mai ki tēnei huhuinga, hei māngai mō koutou marae iwi hoki, tēnei mātou te mana whenua ki roto tēnei roga, e mihi ana kia kōrua. Pai te kiti ngā tāne, haramai ana te tautoko i tēnei kaupapa, tēnei tātou katoa, tō tātou manu i puria, me tēnei te koromatua tuarua, pai tiki i o mātou ngā mema adio inarangi Leo. E tō tātou rangatira Gary ki runga te kauni hira, hei māngai hei mō mātou te iwi Māori. O reira hui no tēnei tātou katoa, mihi ana kōrua, tēnā kōrua, tēnā kōrua, tēnā tātou. Tēnā kōrua te wā.
I aku manu kura, i aku manu taiko, me mehi ka tika kia tātou katoa, kia whaka ki ngā kete Māori e pāna ki o tātou nei arohe o Matamata-Piako. Tēnā koe whā, tēnā koe mō o pau i kete nei e mātou a te rā uki no reira. Nei te mi honore ki a koe mō tō kaha ki tā paina arotama ki tō iwi. I hoki ngā maharatanga i te wā, i te ora tā te kotahi ngā wā ki imua, e noho nei e koe ki tōna taha. e noho nei e au hei tamaiti, e angi te tingata, e pakinga mahi ia, ki te tonu mo i Trust Board, hei mai tai au moku ake no rea tinekani kia te otira tāpe katoa. Yeah, no, I'm stoked, like, proud to be a contributor to the kaupapa on behalf of our iwi Ngāti Tumutumu and to our mayor, to the councillors. I'm looking forward to making a contribution to our kaupapa to advance the aspirations of our people, our taiao, collectively in partnership with MBTs. Sure.
Great.
Te whare, ko were ki te maunga, ko putangi te awa, ko herangi Ngāti Hanarangi ki te iwi, ko herangi tāpaki te hapu, ko West Takuinua. Just a quick background on me, I'm a builder by trade. I work for a little outfit in town, Matamata called Tim and Hardware. Been there a little bit, as say a lot of it. I've been a trustee for iwi for about a half our term, which is about a year and a half. I'm quite interested to be in that sort of environment, but it's challenging. And thank you for this opportunity to join the board. Ngā mihi ki kara tātou.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou.
Need a resolution?
Let's speak.
We need a resolution.
Yeah, that's fine.
Recommendation, yeah. If you like, I'm happy to move. Can we bundle it into two? The two into one, to welcome both of them to
Yes, yeah.
Manawhenua, the forum?
Yeah.
I'm happy to second.
Gary second, yeah, the motion.
Aye.
Aye, contrary, carry.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, exactly.
You can vote and have a say now.
Give them.
Now.
Yep, got it. Now get to here.
The first on our list is extension of the,
So go to 7.3 now.
Yes.
I'll just make it this two.
Yeah, she said it's good, yes.
Sandra's going to take this.
Thank you. So what I've got here for you today is, I guess, an overview of the local government electoral legislation and multi-board and constituencies amendment bill. I wanted to inform you that council have made a submission to the bill and I guess just offer that opportunity for discussion.
Just.
On that, you want to speak to this? This introduction of local government 7.3. Matamata-Piako.
So a little bit of background about the legislation. So as I'm sure you were aware, because all of the members of the forum put that forward in 2021 to recommend to council to put in a multi-ward. Unfortunately, that legislation looks like it is now changing. So central government have put out an amendment bill repealing all of those provisions that they put in back in 2021, allowing councils to put in a multi-ward without the requirement of a binding poll. So I'm just here to give you a little bit of an update of what the potential options are, knowing that this is still in draft form. It's not been finalised. Submissions closed a week and a half or so ago, and they are considering the bill at the moment. So has been, under the bill, been given 3 different options that we might be able to pursue. Option number 1 is to disestablish the multi-ward and complete a representation review by Christmas this year to come into effect for the 2025 local government elections. Option 2 is to disestablish the multi-ward and revert back to what we had previously, which is the exact same number of councillors that we have now, but without a multi-ward. And option 3 is to hold a binding poll alongside our 2025 elections. So when you get your voting papers in the mail, you'll get your 2025 voting pack, which will have a multi-ward seat to vote for, but you'll also get a separate piece of paper saying, would you like a multi-ward in the future? Yes or no. And whatever the outcome is of that binding poll would come in for the 2028 elections. So what I've attached for you here is the submission that council made for the legislation. So we supported the Taituara submission, as well as acknowledging that either option that we take, there would be quite significant costs for council. And I guess I'm really here just to open up the discussion that the forum can have. I'm happy to answer questions if I can, just noting that it still is in draft form. And I guess the forum's options are to simply receive the information, or if you'd like to discuss making a formal recommendation to council, we've got some options provided there for you later on in the report. So happy for discussion.
Option 1 and 3, it's to go to the for everyone.
Every single person enrolled to vote would, so for option 3, every person enrolled to vote would be required to, well, not required to, but they would get a binding poll, which would basically say, would you like a multi-ward in Matamata-Piako moving forward, yes or no? Yeah. So unfortunately, we're not in charge of setting the rules for this, so we're just in a very tricky position of which option do you pursue when none of the options are really correct.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to, I guess, give my position that I tried to express to council, and my apologies to council for being sick and not able to speak to the points that I was making. But one of the things that I noticed is that the number of councils that actually signed the LGNT and the letter, I guess, pushing back on the amendment bill, and for me it showed leadership by those other councils, and I was just a little bit concerned that we were taking our time. But, you know, we were working through a process to come arrive at our position here at Matamata-Piako, and we stood out as a sort of a low voice or no voice Matamata-Piako, when everybody else was coming out and being quite vocal about their support for the submissions that were pushing back against the amendment. So I made those comments via an email, and apologies for not being able to make those upcoming. But I think it was my own concern is that we did take a long time to arrive at a position. And I appreciate councils have a whole range of things going on, including long-term and things that we've done. But I think from a leadership perspective, we could have done much better in line with all the other councils that have supported this, and particularly our neighbours. I think ourselves in Hamilton City were the last outliers as of 29 May.
My channel.
Yeah. So that was my question. We are where we are now. I think we don't have many options except to wait to see what the select committees come back with, and to see if there will be any changes to the amendments, and with what we do have.
Did you get a response as to what took so long?
I guess personally, I appreciate where council was at working through the business that council's been working on through the long-term plan, and I guess being part of that, you just have to realise that that's where we're at, and I can't answer any more to as why I didn't plan on the agenda.
So I guess that's been taken from me, because obviously I'm not didn't sign it. It was quite a quick turnaround. We didn't have I wasn't prepared to sign it without discussing it with the council first. You know, like, it's a process that we should follow. It wasn't that I was for or against it. I just didn't have the time to, at that point with the councillors, that we hadn't talked about it. We talked about it immediately after, when we had the some bit more legislation to understand what was actually going to happen. So I'm sorry if it's of offence to you that it shows that I haven't shown leadership. It was a decision that I made at that point in time, that the timing wasn't. A letter, to me, the letter may show leadership. It may also not show leadership. You know, like it's a view that's out there, and I apologise if that you feel that I haven't supported you. But it's an unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in, that the government have now flip-flopped. And this is, I personally don't see the government's going to do what it's going to do. Yeah, and as I said, time doing other stuff. I'm sorry if it's shown offence.
And just in terms of the submission timeframes, to put a little bit of context around that, we received it, I think, 1 p.m. on a Friday, and the submissions were due Wednesday night. So we sent it out to our council straight away on Friday, discussed it on the Wednesday, got the submission in before midnight on the Wednesday night. So I guess it's a little bit unfair, their timeframes. You know, they require council to have consultations running for at least 1 month most of the time, whereas theirs ran for 3.5 days. So it is very unfortunate the timing that they're putting on councils for this.
I guess if I could just add to that point, all the other councils, as soon as they heard that their members were coming out, they didn't wait for the legislation. They didn't wait for the amendment bill. They just said it wasn't good enough and made those statements. That's also. I'm happy to look where it is actually.
No further discussion. If not, Gary.
Time constraint of submission. Although we were aware, Raukawa, that this bill was coming, the pace at which it has come along, the time frame noted for the public consultation was not. This bill had a first reading in Parliament on the 23rd of May 2024 and was referred to the Justice Select Committee that day. The closing date for this submission is the 29th of May 2024. This has provided the public, including Raukawa, with 4 working days to develop the submission. Our submission has been reviewed and approved by Katarina Hodge, Chairperson of Raukawa, RST/RCT, Maria Te Kanawa, Tāgu Rangapu. Key points of Raukawa's submission. Raukawa opposes the local government, electoral legislation in Māori wards and Māori constitution amendment bill, and request that the committee recommends that the bill does not approve. Raukawa believes that the bill breaches the Crown obligation under the Treaty of Waitangi. It represents significant treaty breaches in respect of the Crown obligation to Raukawa. The bill undermines Raukawa's ability to exercise their rangatiratanga authority in determining how they will work with local government, and undermines that the partnership between Raukawa and local authorities. Number 4, the bill has the potential to expose Raukawa uri dissenting to divide effect and racial, and will have a prejudicial effect on the representation or participation of Māori in local government. Number 5, the bill has been developed without consultation with Raukawa and other relevant parties, and the Crown has ignored earlier consultation on changes to the Act in 2021. The bill is seen as a breach of the Crown obligation to act reasonable and in good faith. National Strategy Manager. Kia ora.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. We all heard the strong views of Raukawa. I think we all of that into. Gary is happy to move that this report be received.
I just want to have a comment on this issue. Totally understand where we are. You know, this is a central government packet that they've put on the table, and they will do what they will do. I suppose my challenge to you two is this is going to happen all the time, and we and you
are the ones who are always sitting here at this table. So how do we ensure that going forward for our towns, our community, our district, these relationships are upheld, and our voice, which we believe and we hear from you all, the contribution that we make not only to council but to our wider communities. How do we, and what is council? I suppose my challenge is what is council's thinking, or challenge you to think of ways where we can continue to uphold a presence and a view within council. I know that we obviously will still maintain our Manawhenua forum, and that's okay. But yeah, just challenge you guys into thinking forward in the future of how do we continue to maintain these relations, because this really has, I don't think, this really has could have the effect of iwi walking away. So it is a leadership challenge to you, Adrian, and to you, James, of how do we keep each other in the room and at the table. Yeah, so that's sort of my take.
Well, I think that's a good challenge, Joanne. I mean, we have, really strived to build that relationship with iwi. I mean, we have Tuatahi sitting back there now, and we established that role. And obviously, Adrian and I were part of the last council that voted to put the Māori ward in place as well. So, and this forum, obviously, we're meeting more often, and there's a little bit more teeth to it, not just a decision receiving forum, which probably, that was part of the criticism in the past. So we see that relationship as being critical, and that's why we did vote for the Māori ward, because we do need that relationship. If that gets disestablished from nothing that we, but circumstances outside of our control, I guess your question is around how do we keep that relationship in place. I suppose that workshop kind of started that I hate the word, the journey. So if I hate that word, I apologise straight away. I couldn't think of another one. But so that's the kind of stuff, and we all owe, we all have to be part of that dialogue, don't we? We've got to go. We acknowledge the importance of iwi in our district. And I'd like to think that we have a good relationship at the moment. It can always be better. Every relationship takes time to develop. But I mean, all I can say is that we're open to ideas, and we're open to, don't know if open for business is the right word, but we're open for ideas, open for dialogue, and we certainly value the relationship. And we need to progress it. Simple as that.
And if I can just add to that, I guess the other thing too is to recognise there's several iwi groups around the table, and I think it's important that we understand each iwi group as well, so that and that's where with Tuatahi and the work that he will do to progress those agreements, so that we understand what's important, and that we hopefully put our steps in the right place and not offend a party, because this is the thing, if we don't understand what's important to each individual iwi group, then we risk also damaging that relationship, don't we?
It probably does highlight the importance of that aspirational document that we are trying to pull together, because then you wouldn't need to meet with your team to understand the direction and what we want to go, So for instance, you did have 4 days again to make a submission like this. Day one, according to that aspirational document that we've built together and agreed to together, Māori representation is at the forefront of what we want. So there's no need to come together and talk about it. You know what it is, end of. That does highlight the importance of that document. Again, makes it clear, eh?
Any further comment?
Yeah, just to clarify, can I just support the wiro by local there, that message has been resonated and reaffirmed and strengthened across iwi in terms of Māoridom, and we know from a cultural Māoridom perspective we're getting challenged left, right and centre, nei toitu te taiao, toitu te tangata, toitu te tiriti. And what's fundamental in our approach from a council point of view, we went through the same discussion at Hamilton City Council. I sit there as a Māori Māori, and the same deliberations and challenge we've put across the iwi. You kind of got your hands tied in this process. Yeah, you're kind of damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because it's been dictated by Wellington decision makers. One thing that we can do though is actually put our toe in the ground and put a position on it, which is we want to reaffirm, the position that we have a Māori board representative and a leader at the highest level, so that we can, essentially uphold the treaty obligations, but putting our toe in the ground and making a resolution to that effect would at least be something that we can do to put our position on the table.
Any further comments? If not, Gary is happy to move the report be received. Have a second, please. Thank you, Jill. All those in favour say aye. Contrary, carried.
Is there any feedback you'd like to give to
Sandra?
I guess we've just got a recommendation on there. If you would like to provide feedback to council, would you like to provide any feedback on the various options, or we can capture what you've said in terms of a summary? Is there an option? It sounds like you're just wanting to receive this information at the moment, but provide the summary over looking forward. Whilst whichever option it is that we go for, we need to maintain those relationships, or if there are a particular option you'd like to put forward. I guess I just want to make clear before I present anything to council. I just talk a bit rubbish.
No.
Yes, there's not a
By the use of a bad option.
Yeah.
I think the point is that that's draft form at the moment, right? Until it becomes these are your solid options.
Yeah.
I think it's prudent for us to wait for those. I think our message is that we believe council should have had a stronger stand on supporting the Māori ward, and leave it at that.
So when do we have to vote on this as a council?
So they have given us an indication of late July. Have the legislation passed, council has to make a decision before the 6th of September. There will be one council meeting. It's the 20-something of August. So I would like to think that by the August Manawhenua Forum meeting, we will have final legislation in place. The timing might not work out perfectly, like we might not be able to make your agenda, but I think hopefully if their timeframes are consistent, then we can discuss it at the next forum meeting ahead of council making a formal decision.
Okay, so point of clarification, because I believe this is a very important issue. If we don't meet the agenda timelines, that this issue be given flexibility to be added in time for that forum meeting, or for option 2 would be that another hui be, once you've got some further clarification, another Manawhenua Forum hui be held prior to the council meeting for that issue.
Totally take that on board. So we're expecting late July. The Manawhenua Forum meeting is scheduled for early August. We could potentially move that back by a week, potentially, if the legislation's running late. We are hoping that we will have a final copy ready for your agenda cutoff. There might be where we have to put in a draft version onto your agenda, but by the time of the meeting, we'll have the final version. So I think if you're comfortable with that, we'll have a discussion closer to the time when we know when the legislation is going to be finalised, to make sure that that Manawhenua Forum meeting can happen at the right time. Once we have absolute clarity on the legislation, but before council have to make their decision, so we can definitely work that into our schedule if you're happy with that.
Thank you.
So, sorry, I was just going to want to make one more comment. Once the amendment rules, amendment is made and becomes law, the options for council to vote are still there. Is that what you're saying? We can either say yes to it or no to it, or get no option.
I don't think there's a no option. There's a 1, 2, or 3, and none of those 3 options are good. And
But I think my point of view is that it would still be good for the Manawhenua Forum to consider that and to make a recommendation to council that, then at least we're guiding council on the options.
So at this stage, perhaps I would, given the time frame, tentatively book in a Manawhenua forum for the week later as well, and just tentatively get that in there if everyone's happy with that, to make sure that we can make those adjustments if anything.
It'll be fine, so.
Thank you.
2 weeks. Have something to say?
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Should we put that feedback in? Can I move that do we need to any of that process through? Just around, sorry Sandra, just to give that feedback, I think we need to acknowledge the discussion and provide the feedback to council that there will be Manawhenua will come back to council in August. I think that needs to be documented, because otherwise we've just passed a motion that information be received, and I think it should be formally recorded. So I'd like, can I move that council, that Manawhenua will make a recommendation at their next meeting?
Yeah, so if we phrase it something like, I guess your first one will still be information to be received, your second one might be the forum will revisit this issue at the next meeting and provide a formal recommendation to council at that point. If you'd like to include something like that in your recommendation,
I think
then we just have to move in second again at all.
yeah, I think that's really important.
I have to second that.
Moved by Adrian, second Jill. Those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I just felt it needed.
Thank you.
One.
Oh, that's me probably. Yes, just with 8.1 was the formal acknowledgement of the Queen's Service Medal that Te Amalama received with the New Year's honours. And of course, we acknowledged it informally in our first meeting of the year. And now really it's the formal acknowledgement now, because we had afternoon tea with the Governor General.
High tea.
Yeah, high tea, yeah. And yeah, would you like to tell us a little bit about it, Te Amalama?
It is quite a lovely, very informal gathering. You know, there were only 11 of us that were received different levels of the medal of the awards. And each group had their own table. It's really intimate. Yeah, really intimate. It was about each recipient and the family that was there. The karanga is in it, goes all out, and there was a karanga and a mihi. It's good that I knew the kaumata, the mihi, Joe Harawira. So, yeah, and they invited us to go and look around if we wanted to go and look around the government building, government house. The young ones making that. So, yeah, and then came back to Matamata-Piako, where there was about 100 and something people there to welcome us back. I was pleased that, you know, the people from the community, because this nomination came from the community. And so it was fitting that our community was there with our iwi. Yeah.
I think it's just an award well deserved, and because it's quite a bit of work goes into putting in those applications. And yes, and I think it was Janice, wasn't it? Janice, is that her name? Glennis, close. Glennis had done the application from an education perspective, and I just want to add in the other work besides education that was done in the community as well. And yeah, it was lovely to have been at the celebratory dinner that Friday night. It was a wonderful evening and well deserved. And I just thought I commented on how Te Amalama looked. She was glowing, and it just looked beautiful. And with the karawai, it was just, I broke out in goosebumps actually, because you know I'm so taken with the evening and how special it was, and how everyone spoke all had something different to share. Yeah, it was amazing, and I was amazed at how many people I knew, even from the Māori Women's Welfare League. You know, people from outside of the district. So you know, it's well deserved, and I'd just like to move that the information we received, unless somebody else would like to add comment as well. But this is just a formal acknowledgement of the recognition of Te Amanawa's work for so many years in our room.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jen.
Thanks.
Adrian, thank you for that. You move that, April. You say over second.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes.
Kia ora, Whaia, and I acknowledge the achievement in my little mihi at the start. But one of the things that our ruruhi and our koroheke, they leave a legacy for us to pick up the challenge in the wheel. And so this is a reminder, based on her beautiful leadership to us as a people, how responsible we are as good custodians of our community and country, our marae, our iwi hapu, and certainly under the tumuakitanga and mekingitanga. So just, I just want to acknowledge you, Whaia, because you're setting the bar for us. And so with that, and at night, we got Hingarangi and Jill and others needing to sort of get their medal one day, but it's certainly something that is a pathway for us. So I just want to acknowledge you for cannot believe in the way for us, and may we continue to follow your footsteps.
I remember the days back in the Tainui with that you mentioned in your meeting. So yeah. There was some work in progress, some work. So thank you, Lord. So, further comment? If you're second, second, Lord, all those in favour say aye. Voluntary care. 8.2, long-term plan. Good morning. All right.
Kia ora, Madam Chair. Tēnā koutou katoa o ingarangi te whakaparanga mai. Engari ko kirikiri roa te whenua tupu o te aroha te kāinga. E kaiohu tohu kaupahiri ahau. Ko Laura toku ingoa. Tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora. The Victor report today provides an update on Council's long-term plan and where we are at now following completion of the consultation process and the hearings held. So as a quick recap, Council prepared a consultation document and we consulted on 9 different topics and provided options to the community with both Council's preferred option and also the alternative option. Would you like me to run through just a quick summary of those topics for members and also for some of the newer members that may not be aware?
Thank you.
So first one is the Te Aroha Spa. So Council's proposed option on this one was to continue investigating options to help Te Aroha capitalise on its rich history and to thrive as a tourist destination. We also had a topic of roading renewals. The proposed option here was to reduce the eroding renewal program to cut costs and to spread it out over a longer period with a focus on affordability for the community. We also had a topic on walking and cycling. Council proposed to stop budgeting for new walking and cycling connections, and this was to reflect the updated draft priorities in central government. We also had a topic on town centre infrastructure. This one was to prioritise the maintenance and renewal of existing infrastructure over any.
Sorry, Laura, is this for the 3 towns?
Yeah. Yes, this is across the whole district. Yes, yeah. Over any major upgrades, additional playgrounds. This one was around limiting playground improvements to the planned new playgrounds for Matamata and Te Aroha. We also had a topic on the stage for the Matamata Civic Centre, You may be aware that this was a proposal to add a stage to the centre further on. And it was proposed to actually remove this project from Council's work programme. We had a topic on the services we provide. So Council proposed to continue to provide all the current services to mostly the same standard. And the last couple of years, the Te Aroha Library, the proposal was to investigate and deliver a suitable building to continue to provide library services in Te Aroha. The final one there of the 9 is about our approach to rates and debt. And this was around noting that our rates needed a significant increase in the year ahead. And that was to manage the significant increases in costs as set out in the consultation document. So really that is all wrapped up in a overall focus around a plan that is centred around affordability. And it attempted to explain to the community some of the challenges that are faced by council within that and how it planned to tackle them. And a focus on the future whilst being in quite uncertain times. And also the plan really set out the focus on the must-do projects and explain why there were some that weren't going to receive perhaps the same level of funding as previously. So as you may be aware, we have completed consultation that was open from the 21st of March to the 21st of April. We had several different layers of just support, getting the word out there to encourage our community to provide us with their feedback. So we had an awareness campaign at the end of last year. We had a speaker series on topics of interest that you may have seen. And finally, to support the consultation document, we also had a dedicated website, and information was primarily available on this website with electronic submission forms. However, we did still have paper forms that people could use and also could email through to us and post and things like the more traditional formats as well. And we had quite a good response to this. So overall, we received about 460 submissions across all of the consultation topics. And I really would like to take the time just to thank everyone that did make a submission. That was really appreciated that they took the time to provide us with their thoughts. The most submissions that we received were on the Te Aroha Spa. So received about 60 on that. And then the next popular was walking and cycling. And least submissions were around the rates and debt. But we've received really good feedback on all topics. And for all of the topics except for roading renewals and walking and cycling, the majority were in agreement with the proposed option. And the proposed option that received the most support quite overwhelmingly, with 82% agreeing, was the Te Aroha Library. So that provided a real strong direction for council. And the alternative option that received the most support was walking and cycling, and this received 57%, which supported the alternative option. And then the next step in the process was the hearing that was held on the 8th of May. And of course, this provides an opportunity for anyone who would like to come and present to council their submission. And we had about 47 submitters present to council. This also included grant applicants. And then the meeting continued into the 9th of May, and we held deliberations on the 22nd of May. And you'll see in your report that following consideration of these submissions, that council made some decisions on those topics, on each of those topics, and they're included in your report. And we've also included some information around submissions that were received on other LTP-related policy that we also consulted on at the same time, for instance, the revenue and financing policy. And all of these policies and the LTP are going to be adopted at the council's meeting on the 3rd of July. And so obviously the final audit is still subject to, the final LTP is subject to final audit, which is happening at the moment. And then following further changes, any time for budget adjustments and quality control we've decided to adopt the LTP at a slightly later date of 3rd of July, just to make sure that we've got that little bit of buffer time following audit. And I guess just the last point on this report is just to thank the forum for your feedback throughout the entire process. We're very keen to hear anything further from you following consultation, and as we move closer to the formal adoption of the LTP, just to help us to improve for the next time. It'll come round soon enough, and we'd like to just note your feedback for the next process so we can work to improve, to implement any changes for the next round. So yeah, kia ora, and I'm happy to answer any queries.
Kia ora, Laura. Taking questions. Long-term plan to Laura. No.
Kia ora. I'm going to leverage off my newness and answer some questions around the LTP. Are you able to provide data or stats around how many Māori submitted? And the reason why I preface that question is I'm trying to understand, typically in council, it's rubbish roads rates, and there's another one, real comes into the R categories around Tikanga and Te Ao Māori and partnership initiatives. So I'm trying to find in the LTP, where does the cultural Māori pō fit in terms of a kaupapa, and we talked about an aspirational document, but where is the Tikanga Te Ao Māori aspiration and or outcome that we can LTP submit?
So that is not a question that we actually asked in the submission form. So we don't actually have that information. So we can't break it down by Māori submitters. However, going forward, we would like to work with the forum to potentially include questions like that. However, we would need to be careful about privacy concerns and matters like that. But yeah, we don't have that information, unfortunately, this round.
My other question is around climate resilience and or actions. Is there a kaupapa within the LTP around that?
Sure, yes, actually my colleague Anne has a report to the forum in a couple of items time, and we have council has included funding for investigations into our climate response. We have a climate change river map that has been developed, and we'll talk through that. So yes, there has been funding set aside for that, yes.
My last question, and this might be to you, our mayor, is around, there's a number of challenges with the wastewater treatment plants, and certainly one recently in Te Aroha and Matamata, and so the LTP funds and how they are fast-tracked to support improvements to the wastewater treatment plant projects, infrastructure.
Yep, so that's all in there, and it's the project's already underway from Waihao to Te Aroha with the pipeline. I believe it was blessed just on Thursday. So and so the contractors are anyway. So yeah, everything's budgeted in there. I will say that audit challenged staff and myself around whether we could deliver all those capital projects, and basically so we're putting them in to be compliant. Yeah, like we aim to deliver. It might take a bit longer, perhaps, but we aim to deliver because it's about having compliant plants.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question adequately?
Yeah, thanks. Sure.
What about the recreation ground? What
In terms of what,
Oh well, the development
Master plan.
yeah, well, it's developing slowly, I would say, because we don't have funding to go and all guns blazing, but the work is
They don't go into this.
Pardon?
And not there could be
Into the LTP. There's funding in the LTP, not huge amounts of funding in the LTP. Biggest amount of funding in the LTP towards background is the pool, potential replacement of the pool. And can you tell me what year is it?
Year 8.
Something like that. It's down the chain anyway, because that is a significant capital spend, and there's a lot of submissions that would have to go about that. But in terms of the recreation ground, I mean, we're actually having a meeting with the users on
Tomorrow night.
There was a few feathers ruffled when the fence got shifted. The soccer and cricket wanted to shift the fence to along the polo ground, and it's just so we're just continuing those conversations around all those user groups, how we can accommodate everybody. So shifting the fences at, for example, the AMP Society got a bit flustered and they realised that life still moves on, so it's fine. It doesn't actually affect them that much. Same with the Yankee haulers. I'm guessing we'll have the same conversation with some of those other groups as well, and we'll find that out tomorrow night. So we continue that dialogue with all them, but there's no huge budget. I mean, the key with the recreation ground, in my opinion, is we because of its proximity to Hamilton and all that kind of stuff, we can potentially fall into some sub-regional stuff and try to get some funding through Sport Waikato and associated groups like that. But it's just but so it continues to develop, not at the speed you'd like it to, but there are a number of user groups. I mean, and I mean, even little things like the new park, obviously, which is in operation now. The field beside it's all scruffing, so what do we do there? So the conversation continues, but there's not much money in the budget, sadly.
Yeah, it's been a long time, some years.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, can I just, because the consultation period, with that external facilitators, I mean, it was a bit unfortunate that a lot of it took place through COVID. We had a meeting just with the Yankee haulers group a month ago, maybe, whatever it was, month-ish ago. And we didn't know anything about the consultation. They've subsequently found out that they did, and it was just a bit of poor communication. So I think some of the groups maybe didn't flesh out what they wanted or engage as much as they could have done. And I think that was a bit unfortunate. And I certainly know that facilitation team were getting a bit anxious to wrap it up at the end. But I mean, at least there are some. And I probably too, the fact that polo was still around at that time was probably a bit unfortunate, because what would there have been more discussions if we'd known that was a blank canvas at that point as well.
I think if I can just add, it's not so much about money, it's about working with the groups that use the grounds to make sure that they are enabled to maximise their benefits, because the whole intent of moving that fence into once polo had moved off was to shift the fence, because at the moment there was soccer being played over the fence, but that area is also a dog exercise area. And that's a bit of a conflicting use when you've got football and dogs being run on the same ground, if you get what I mean, from a health perspective. So to shift that fence now enables more football fields so that kids can play in Morrinsville. They're not travelling to Hamilton, because that was the thing. We only had a couple of fields, and so kids were going to travel further to play their sport. So I think it's just about enabling the growth and to maximise or optimise that asset, and I don't think we're there yet. But Yankee Holders have just come back actually, because they're interested in taking over the polo buildings that were there. So just come back. Yeah. So
I do know as a young fella playing rugby out at Tahuta, the mixture of sheep and playing footy wasn't all that pleasant either, I believe. The car ride home, I don't think that was the most popular best.
Very good at sidestepping.
Yeah. No sidestepping position I played.
I hope that answers the question.
I just wanted to make a comment on Norm's point, and actually probably in Norm's point earlier. I think the kaupapa budget, what's really what we're looking at in the cycle is where's the spend for kaupapa initiatives. I think the council has agreed to do that with Tuatai to create those relationship documents, and finalising some of that aspirational stuff will then help to give us that framework to reflect through to the next LTP, which is if that happens in the next week or something. But we're just gonna that's where our budget opportunities are. That comes through those two.
And I guess just acknowledge too the whakainga, the work that's gone in there with that plan change. And I'm really looking forward to, that outcome must be due soon. So really looking forward to that opportunity.
Any further comment on this?
Can I just leverage off what Lord Gary's put it all. So as an example, and I share the template with Kirikiriwa and also is that they've got a Māori plan, and it's called Te Tau Manawhenua, and it's a kaupapa Māori strategy with 4 key pillars, and it helps guide the decision making for a bunch of outcomes, but it also helps facilitate where the funding goes in order to achieve that. So looking forward to working with Tuatahi and our team to design and drive that kaupapa.
No further comments? Someone move this report be received. Leader, seconder. In the room, all those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary carried. Thank you. 8.3, that's you, Laura.
Sure. So alongside the LTP, Council also consulted on a range of different policies, and the report that you have there provides an update on the submissions on those ones and also the decisions made. So across all of these policies, we informed key stakeholders of the opportunity to provide comment, and people could read the information on our Have Your Say page. So it was separate from the LTP consultation. And there was an online form there. We also had hard copy forms. And so for all our non-LTP related policies, we did receive a relatively low number of submissions. And that was that our LTP sucked up quite a lot of it got all the attention. So what we are doing going forward is trying to not have so much going on at the same time so that we can give them the attention they deserve. But despite the low numbers, we've received some really great submissions and very helpful and high quality submissions. And this feedback was actually really invaluable to the final decisions that Council made. So what we consulted on was, so we followed the same timeframe as the LTP. So from the same time we had the hearings, all that sort of thing. So firstly, the dangerous, affected and unsanitary buildings policy. This policy is required under the Building Act, must be reviewed every 5 years. We made some slight changes to the policy, not anything dramatic, and just some minor updates to help with clarity. It's basically sets out the approach that the council will take in relation to dangerous buildings under the Building Act. And basically, we heard from submitters with some concerns in a couple of areas. They're talking about the safety concerns around some specific buildings. And also there was some mention of people living in commercial premises, issues such as that. And so what we would like to ask submitters is to formally provide that information to council through the correct channels so that staff can follow up. And we also made some changes to the policy as a result of a submission just to correct the definition of dangerous building to reflect the Fire and Emergency New Zealand Act. That's just an update in the definitions there. So that was all corrected, which was great. And that policy was adopted on the 22nd of May. So that was wonderful. That will apply from the 1st of July, that policy. The next couple are social and kind of health related policies. The first one is the legal highs policy. This is a policy that council may have. It's not a legislative requirement, but it helps to, may restrict the location of premises selling psychoactive substances. Again, council only made some minor administrative amendments and wanted to hear from the community what they thought. So the policy has little areas in each of the towns as to where stores might be able to be located. And what we heard clearly from the submissions is that the community wanted more stringent provisions in the policy. And at the meeting, council noted whilst we're not able to actually ban legal highs, nor can we have a policy that is so restrictive that it has the effect of banning them. But to address the concerns, council considered all the available options that we have. We extended the distance between stores from 300 to 350 metres. And what this actually means in effect is that there can only be one store in each town that is allowable. And just to note that there are no substances that are actually legal at the moment that can be sold, but this is almost like having a insurance policy in case that was to happen in the future. And also we updated the name of the policy from legal highs to psychoactive substances because it reflects what is actually the term used in the Act. Yeah, so that was that one. And we got some really good submissions, and I think that's resulted in a policy that has the protections in it for the community as much as we're allowed to do under the Act. And then the next one is our smoke-free outdoor spaces policy. This is a policy that council has chosen to have. It's not a requirement, but it includes smoke-free outdoor spaces. So this helps to promote the health of our community. Again, council didn't propose any significant changes, but we did have submissions in support, and obviously noting the obvious health benefits and other benefits such as reduced litter from cigarettes and things like that. But there were also submissions that query the effectiveness and how is this enforced, and queries such as that valid concerns. And so council did adopt the policy because it is something that we want to continue to support smoke-free areas, but noted that perhaps more awareness is needed. So what we will do is follow up with a campaign because perhaps it's not very well known, and that may achieve a bit more compliance with the policy. And yeah, so that one is adopted as well.
Just a question, sorry. Can we ask questions as we go through the presentation? Can I ask a couple of questions? I was trying to find an example of a legal high. And can you give an example?
So it'll be
Synthetic
synthetic marijuana. Quite a few years ago, so it would have been around when the Act came in 2013. It was a response to some real concerns that these substances were coming into the country. There was a bit of a legal loophole where they were legal. So this is banned, had the effect of banning them basically. And to sell these products, you have to apply through an authority, national authority, and there's none approved.
The reason why I asked that question, and it's similar to smoke-free vaping is really popular, and with everyone that vapes, and so really keen to understand what the awareness and education is to stop our kids from not smoking but vaping and the illegal high stuff as well. So keen to understand how that is incorporated into that awareness and education platform for our kids.
We'd be really happy to work with the forum about what this campaign will actually involve. But the policy includes vaping.
That's like free one does,
Yeah. And in terms of the regulation on vaping, so where they can get something that's a national body as well. Yeah. And I think they've just put in restrictions around distances from schools. There's like a minimum distance and things like that. Yeah. And then also, so finally, council also consulted on its fees and charges. So council does this every year alongside annual plan and long-term plan. And actually this time proposed some quite significant increases. And this decision reflected that course costs are going up quite significantly. And council made the decision it needs to cover the costs. It can either do this through rates or to recover some of it, but through the higher fees and sort of move to more of a user pays element. And so this is what council proposed. We've received 53 submissions on fees and charges, and 49% disagreed with the proposal, and 34 were in agreement. And so we did receive some submissions in supporting that notion of user pays. However, others did note the large increases in some areas, such as dog restrictions, swimming fees, would not be affordable for some families, and that was definitely noted. And however, it was adopted at the hearing. However, since that time, there's been some corrections needed to some of the swim zone fees, so they need to be aligned with the discount rate. So they're going to be taken back to council for approval on the 3rd of July. So that is still a little bit ongoing, but yeah, we've received some really great submissions overall, and happy to answer any questions. Yeah, Twitter.
Just like I want no question. Is the fees increase aligned to the transfer stations as well? Transfer station costs? Dumping rubbish?
Yeah, good question. I think that will have increased with the levy, the government levies for rubbish. That was probably about it at this point in time.
The social deficit of that is rubbish ends up somewhere else, not the dump.
Yeah,
And
I guess I can answer that. There are some spots around the district that are popular, but they're not. We've got that really good sign. I should show that. Don't be a tosser, and that seems to have gone down quite well. Like at the Wairere Falls that was put there. Yeah, there's been a few spots around, and sometimes it's not significant. I think you just expect some. And the thing is, we've got public rubbish bins around still, so some of it is going into public rubbish bins.
An example, again, Kitty Law is that a lot of rubbish ended up somewhere else, i.e. the river and roads and other spots.
The sad part about that though is it's already happening. Putting the price up, it's already happening. If it's been significantly worse, I know our waste manager will bring some of that information, and I think it'll be quite interesting for it to come to Manawhenua to do some of the reporting around our stats.
It's a really tough thing, eh? I mean, it's trying to. I think that I don't know whether it's money or education in that space, because for some, I mean, when the lab started cleaning up, the Manawhenua river walk and the amount of stuff that they were pulling out of the river that had got chucked over the old bridge there on Avenue Road. And it becomes I mean, I've spoken to a farmer that used to have a farm further up the river, and when he was a kid, and this guy's in his 80s now, it was all the rubbish just been in he used to have a little slug gun, shooting the light bulbs and stuff on it was a bit of a highlight on the river. So it was a cultural thing, in terms of everybody. And I mean, I used to visit a farm up in South Auckland, Clevedon, and God, rubbish on that side of the road up around that property was just extraordinary, to the extent that their underpass flooded one morning. They couldn't figure out why, and someone had put a couch in and had blocked the culvert. And so there was a couch in their drain blocking the culvert, flooding the underpass. And it was just, so, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but it's just trying to get people to do the right thing. Yeah.
I just wanted, sorry.
You go, Jim.
I just wanted to make a comment on the fees and charges in regards to, in particular, the swimming pools and those sort of services, and urge council not to discredit the social impacts and outcomes that those sorts of services have. I know here in Te Aroha, the pricing has been good, so that they have quite a high attendance rate at Te Aroha. So yeah. Also, around swimming and the importance of swimming, and school pool closures and schools not being able to heat their pools over winter, and our pools in our district are all uncovered, and that council really has a duty to make sure that those services are available for everyone in our community. Especially, we are a country of water. So yeah, I know you probably hear it, but I also know it's really easy to sit at a council table and look at the impact of the costs and how do you cut costs and user pays. But, you've got to be able to really weigh that issue up. And I get it's a hard one, but just to reiterate all those people who are submitting on that, really think about those social impacts. Back in the day, Manukau City Council, before the big council, they were absolutely huge on providing swimming pools for free for the whole community, and they did it. So there's a way to do things, not saying don't do it, but just really consider the impact that sort of thing actually has. It's not as easy as just saying, oh, we need to cover the cost, let's do it.
No. So if I could just answer, I guess, and my daughter lived in Papatoetoe for a while, so they were using the pools up there, and I guess it's a population thing. Is we've got 3 towns and we're providing facilities for quite a small community. But if I can just add, when I first came on council, it was $20 a swim was the real cost. Now it's $40. So we haven't increased our swimming fees. We haven't doubled our swimming fees to people using it. So we are still, the ratepayer is still paying a significant portion to enable swimming, because we do, and we all agree that the ability to swim is critical in our district. That just adds some context, thank you.
You would have noticed the increase that had come down. We've got a falls behind the marae, Matamata, and we've noticed the increase of people coming down, and that's fine. As long as they respect the place, because they have to go past the Urupa to get down to the falls. So that's all we ask of them, that they be respectful when they go down. But yeah, because of the high fees, they are unable to afford them. And not just that, I think at Kiwitari, there's a swimming pool there too. It's quite popular. Any other comments on this happy on this kaupapa?
Just one last. I'm sorry. I was just going to ask a question. Mortuary waste. Is there a policy around mortuary waste?
No, because we don't have any facilities in the district.
Thanks to hospital.
Okay.
I'm happy to receive that.
Thank you, Gary's and the move and second. All those in favour say aye. Contrary, carry. Thank you, Laura. Anna. 8.4.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kia ora, everyone. Kia ora, everyone. It's lovely to be here. I'll start by introducing myself and then lead you through a short presentation and discussion. Tēnā koutou katoa. No tāmaki makaurau ahau. Nā mihi o ki te maunga o maunga kieke. Nā mihi o ki te moana o tikapa moana nui atoi. Kei pārawai o e noho ana. Nā mihi o ki te awa whakawairanga. Kei te kanahere arohi o Matamata-Piako e mahi ana. He kaitohu tohu kaupapa here ahau. Nā mihi o ki ngā iwi o te rohi nei. Ko Angama ahau. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. I've got a little presentation which I'll just share. Thanks, everyone. So this topic for this workshop is climate change. And the the purpose of the workshop is to provide you with a bit of an overview of the climate change. Is the presentation?
You need to manually push the button, do we?
Yes. I have.
Have you got the, no, but have you got the clicker?
Oh,
You'll need to use that.
I'll just share it in my screen.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'll stop sharing and I'll try sharing again and see if I can. It's really great. Yeah, so the purpose of the workshop is to give you an overview of the climate change work program for the next long-term plan period, and to go a little more detail about one strand of the work program, the strategy area, and then to seek the committee's feedback and guidance on the development of particularly the strategy work stream. And just to emphasise, although the broad brushstrokes of the climate change work program has been developed, we're right at the beginning of the process of creating the specific work program for the strategy part of this program, and so there is a lot of opportunity for the committee if they would wish to guide priorities, values, processes and actions within this area. So this image shows the climate change river map, and I think you also have it in the report. The river map is included in the long-term plan. The river map is a way of visually representing all the different pieces of work that council is doing across different parts of the organisation that can be broadly understood as being part of council's response to climate change. I think you could characterise the overall approach of this work program as being about better understanding the risks, better understanding our vulnerability to the risks, and starting to plan for how we can respond to those risks to make council's assets and services and the wider community more resilient. So just a little background on its development. It was developed through a series of council workshops late last year. The overarching question that was posed to the councillors was, how would you like council to respond to climate change in the next long-term plan period? So the councillors worked through a series of exercises to identify some priorities and group these, which have become 5 streams of work. So we'll just have a brief look at those. So the first stream of work is about protecting our drinking water and making sure we use it sustainably into the future. Then a key focus for the second and third streams of work, wastewater and stormwater, is about protecting our waterways by improving the quality of the wastewater and stormwater discharge. And that stormwater work stream is also about understanding our exposure to flood risk in our urban centres and understanding more about the capacity and resilience of the stormwater network. The fourth stream of work there, rubbish, is about reducing our waste, including doing all we can to separate our different waste streams, including stopping food scraps going into general waste and methane emissions associated with that. And then that fifth stream of work there, the strategy one, has a number of elements to it, which I'll go into a little more detail now. Just stop me anytime if there's questions.
Actually, just a bit of interest, just with the food scraps, just to give you some data. Obviously, the food buckets were not popular for some people, but I have great pleasure in telling people we are now clearing over 40 tonne a month of food scraps into composting. 40 tonne a month. It's well over that now. I think it was 42 tonne in May. So, you know, there is a demand, and I expect it to grow as we get people to understand that. So I think it's a win. Well, it was good to share that with you.
So this stream of work, the strategy work stream, I've highlighted 3 key areas of focus within that. The first 2, growing knowledge and developing a climate change strategy, are the focus over the next 3 years. And the third, working on adaptation and resilience, will come down the track in the next long-term plan period. So there's a bunch of examples under each of those areas of the kinds of things that we're planning on doing. Yeah, maybe I won't really go into too much detail on that. Well, I'll give you just a few examples. So, for example, under the growing knowledge, we want to grow the knowledge within the elected members said that they wanted to understand more about climate change, how it's going to affect our district. So we're thinking of bringing in some expert presentations. We want to find good climate data sources. NIWA is soon to release a new tranche of climate data that we're going to be using. Learning from others and opportunities to work with others is obviously a really smart way to go. Our neighbouring councils have done some big significant pieces of work which you're probably aware of around Parikawa Coast, Shorewood, the shoreline management plans and biodiversity strategy and community adaptation plans in Hauraki. So we want to learn, and Waikato Regional Council as well. There's a lot of work going on in Hamilton City Council. So it's just trying to form those networks, learn from others, and of course also learn from what iwi, the work they're doing, and see how we can collaborate across boundaries, across different work areas. And then a couple of specific pieces of work is doing an emissions inventory of council emissions. We've done one before, and so we're going to do another, and do a formal risk assessment, the scope of which is yet to be sorted out, whether it will just look at council assets and services, or whether we have the capacity to do something wider and look at the wider environment and community. So that's enough talking from me. What I would really like to do now is a little activity with you. But before that, has anyone got any questions?
Yeah.
We've got a couple. The carbon credits, are they within the emissions inventory? I know that there's quite a significant wetlands and other carbon sinks within Matamata. How are they fit in the jigsaw puzzle?
At this point, the plan is that the emissions inventory would be only to do with council itself rather than the wider district. I don't think that we have the resource at this point to do the full district.
Yeah. And my other question is around sustainable energy. And is there an energy strategy? I know there's no power stations in Matamata-Piako, but the growth of renewable energies and harmony, etc., wind farms, is that fit in the jigsaw puzzle here as well?
Yeah, it could possibly. We do have an energy management group, and we get advice from CoLab. So they meet to look at ways to reduce our energy use, and they do from time to time look at proposals for changing the energy sources that we use. Yeah, the wider issue of like encouraging, say, wind or solar into our district, I don't know. I guess that's a district plan conversation.
One last question is around resilience, and I know throughout New Zealand during the Gabrielle, a lot of the marae were the beacon of hope in terms of looking after people, how energy provides for that and the connection to well-being. Is that part of the thing as well?
It could very well be, like I say, developing the scope of the risk assessment, the scope of the strategy is still at baby steps. So what I would like to do is gather feedback like that, things that you see as important, and so that we can begin the process of developing this work program more fully.
What about our water? So like in my case, I'm asking about, Tupa High, where we all get our water from. What's the council, to preserve our water and all that? I don't know about the other towns.
I can only talk in kind of broad ideas because it's not my area of specialty, but I guess there's two sides to it. There's the sustainability of our water supply, especially as drought increases. So there's that side of things which council has several actions to encourage reduction in household water use, to encourage an increase in the use of grey water, especially in new development, to look at reducing water loss from our network, from our pipes. So there's the using the resource sustainably, and then there's also protecting the health of that water source as well, I guess. And so there, it's kind of part of it, I guess, is looking at making sure any runoff from stormwater or flood runoff is as clear of sediment and other pollutants as possible. That would be my stab at answering that.
Kia ora, kia ora, Anne. Just want to acknowledge coming to the table at the beginning of this kaupapa and not in the middle to the end. So yeah, want to mihi you for that. And then sort of just with other things that we've done, and it's linking into the river map here around stormwater, wastewater, and how do we link all the work that we've done within that resource consenting space into this, because I do see a lot of the work that we have done will contribute to that. I know we're still going through the stormwater consents at the moment, so might be the opportunity for your team or whoever to be a part of that oversee watch. I don't know how you do it, but just be a part of that sort of kaupapa there. And then I suppose really the question which you were starting with was how do we contribute to developing and guiding this? From my experience, iwi workshops have always worked really well. And you can talk to Carl, you can talk to Ali, you can talk to Mark. There's lots of your staff who have done that, and it contributed to the outcomes that you want, to what you're looking for. So yeah, we suggest something like that. I know previously we've done iwi workshops and then wider community workshops and brought those together as well. Because I do see in stage 2 there's sort of iwi and community consultation, and that's the next step. And just to reiterate, for iwi it's not just about consultation, it's about co-developing, which is where you're at now. So just reiterate that as well. And yeah, just trying to answer your question before we get onto the exercise. Good.
Thank you. Just in response to your comment about the work that you've already done in terms of stormwater. So yeah, just to reiterate, the climate change river map, a lot of it isn't new work. It's not standalone work. The river map is more like an umbrella, just as a way of showing and communicating that work. So yeah, all that work that you've been doing is in there already. Yeah. All right.
Leo, Leo?
Roko has just completed a climate change strategy. We will want to work with the council, especially on Marae redundancy. But I used a lot during the civil emergency, like Cyclone Gabrielle, tahi tū ki te rem, motai ki te pūne.
Whatty?
Kia ora, for the update and for the tautoko and Jill's kōrero about getting in on the ground floor. Just, I don't know whether you're aware, but just some of them around the table will be aware that there will be a new entity in that whole mix of water strategies and river catchments with the completion of the Hauraki collective settlement. Part of that is similar to the Waikato River Management Board. There's part of a board being set up to manage the Waiho River path and catchment in Waiho and Piako. So that's a local government iwi makeup, and I think there's a crown makeup in there too. But just to be aware that that's going to come into the mix if we ever get our settlements through.
Okay. Okay, so yes.
Any further comments?
Just one for me, last one. Heaps to say today, we knew, it must be the new one, the classroom. Can I acknowledge the process the council are going through? And I won't say it's a conflict of interest, but more a complement of interest in regards to the role that we are playing. And certainly I declare that around my role with the council and engaging with Manawhenua. The comprehensive wastewater treatment process that we went through is actually quite exemplar. And other councils are now looking at MPDC on how they went about the business of engaging, co-designing, and having the conversation and put it all with Manawhenua in regards to all the plants. And so I just want to acknowledge that. And the same approach has been applied to stormwater. And so, how we manage co-design and provide for that. So that application has been recently submitted. But it's a great example of partnership. And that's the example here that MPDC talking about. I remember a couple of years ago, Three Waters was a swear word in many councils, but it wasn't necessarily an issue around the entities per se, but it's how do we manage infrastructure to provide for the future and future-proof it. There was Three Waters. I coined it Four Waters because there's a wairua or a cultural element that actually flows through all the waters as well. And hence the word wairua, the spiritual aspect of it. So Four Waters is another angle in terms of how we address cultural elements in regards to future-proofing infrastructure for the betterment of climate and people and purpose. After that.
I've got to step out. Bye. Sorry. It's perfectly. No one talks too much.
Just got a little activity. I hope, we're running. Hopefully, take too long. So you could just work. You can work by yourself, but it's probably better to work with one or two other people. And we'll just spend a few minutes just having a wee bit of a brainstorm.
Go with recent.
So on one side you've got the whole river back here, and on the other side you've got just the climate change, just the strategy work stream on the river map. And what I'd really like you to do is take 5 minutes and have a discussion with your neighbour. And the question that I'd like you to try and answer is, looking at the strategy work stream, which is just on the, it's just this little one on the back. What opportunities can you see? And what concerns do you have? You can think about it in terms of opportunities for this committee or for your iwi or and what concerns could you see in there?
You've used this one.
Write down some ideas and then we'll come back together in a minute and have a talk about them.
Thank you. To cover the Kiva rather than
because it's
just sort of see this really sort of working on growing space development. Vegetation.
I think we still need to keep growing relationships with
I mean, obviously, here it's so so, what you guys what else?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I think that ties in with that age. That ties in that.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And I think that, you know, that consultation for me is super important.
what do you see? Sorry. I think
Yeah. And then, you know, I suppose,
yeah, which is part of
putting plans in action. I mean, so what can I say? What actions?
Is there anything?
Sometimes I talk about, low-hanging fruit. So if you can, but like recreations, you know, if you can get, we don't have lots of today, but if you can do one that happens through the enjoy against the road. And so it's a little bit, so what actions can we do? If we see what's happening? Excuse me, we need this place down. That place, that's all I'm talking about. What's costing me, because it always has to.
Well, I think
So it's.
Goes down to the west because I haven't seen
dig the hole. It's water. Sometimes they too comfortable in the water.
Yeah.
They get buried in the
Oh,
water.
no, yeah, Matamata. Yeah, they pump it.
We do that.
Yeah.
We incinerate it.
And then, because it's, yeah,
But you have to go fast.
oh, yes, and very, yeah, and cool it so that the water doesn't come down.
Just a couple more minutes.
But as long as it's not again, yeah, like any of the skills, erosion and fall, you know.
Then so that's a
It's beyond us, it's understanding, so I'm curious to understand, you know, because we're all people that find ways to.
The worst one.
public, but I do raise this part. Once you're right now, I think, yeah.
I mean, it's many example. Will relocate it grades because but you don't
Compromise on the safety.
technology. That's the thing. Through the schools, through this conversation, like the neighbour doctors.
Right, yeah. No, that's good. Yeah.
Have a discussion?
Control.
Yeah, and it's like we said about blue ecology and Lockerbie, the land we bought at Lockerbie, town water. It's not with Lockerbie, it was town water. For everybody. So, for those treatment, it's all being in a business. Probably, will be at least, I would imagine.
You'll get a plaque out there now.
Yeah.
Let's come back together as a group and have a bit of a talk about what we've been thinking about. Everyone.
It's inside and it's time to read.
Right, is there anyone who would be happy to share one of the opportunities that they have identified?
There you go.
I suppose the main thing that, the main thing that came through out of our corridor was that we can't change what the elements do. All we can do is mitigate the effects that it may have on us. And one of the key ones that was identified, especially in catchment areas, rivers, is erosion. So I suppose, given the short time and the scope that was delivered to us, that's where we got to. That's where we landed on.
Yeah, and I think our relationships, we need to be working together.
I
If there was the other. Anything else? Next group.
We're eyeing each other uncomfortably across the table. Who's next? Is it us? Is it us, fellas? Okay, right. Oh, look, we just talked about just making sure our knowledge is sound. I mean, and you've got the point about the expert presentations, and I think what we've said in council that hearing more than one opinion is valuable. So we don't just get one perspective, but we also wrote here that in terms of that, we need to make sure that the iwi perspective on that was very strong as well. So we're not just hearing from one point of view. So that was all around that, tied in with the consultation that we've talked about in there, and then we kind of looked at the opportunities around in terms of actions going forward. What sort of priority list would we come up with in time frames, and we talked about the low hanging fruit aspect of that. So if there was something that could be achieved, reasonably quickly, but I mean hanging over that is also that the dollars around what we're in. So it's about understanding the risks that we have, and then trying to have a time frame around finding out what there are, because every different iwi will have a different priority list. And we were making the comparison, or not comparison, but talking about what was in the news just the other day, that there's that little car down in Macau about what challenges that iwi down there is facing because of that, and what would be the time frames around that. So yeah.
Over here.
The new one in the class has got the job again. So this is a liquid shortfall in terms of mishmash opportunities and concerns of overlap. But how might Mātauranga, Māori and Māori apply to the strategy in terms of Indigenous international models? What else is happening internationally around Indigenous aspects of climate resilience, and a lot of the islands that are literally sinking and all the seas rising to take them and take the existence away? How do we learn from international brothers and sisters? How do we maximise and utilise climate resilience in terms of marae, wetlands and biodiversity and impacts on tonga species? How do we future-proof and provide an educational and or pathway for climate knowledge and resilience for rangatahi? How do we balance the emissions in terms of inventory for heavy industry, i.e. fuel types, perhaps conditions of consent? Those are mine ones, by the way, Tim. I just made these ones up. And also, how do we future-proof climate resilience and river flow in regards to residential development and future-proofing around growth within the rohe? A good mate of mine, Barack Obama, he said, if you want to make a contribution to climate change, pump your tyres up to the right pressure.
Very good. Okay, and just to, can't change the elements is the top one. Not can, we can't. Just a typo.
Oh, yes.
I guess the biggest thing here is a lot of the stuff we're talking about is what we're already doing. You know, what's already in train and that we can build on. Because there are some things that are already being considered, and it's like with the water and putting in water meters. It's in our year 4 if we still have them. But yeah, because at the moment there's no incentive to conserve water with a targeted rate. Probably no incentive in Hamilton with their rate, but yeah.
Okay, that looks, and I acknowledge this is a very quick exercise and we could do it again and do it and spend a lot more time. But since I've never met you before, I just wanted to basically come and say hello and let you know this program existed. So this is just the wee exercise. But there are 2 more steps in the process. The next, and I want you to work with your little group again and just spend a couple of minutes so we don't go too over time on this question here. So thinking about the opportunities and concerns that you've just identified, what are some possible actions from here? Some next steps from here. So those are the things that we just identified in only a very few minutes, some things that are important to the group. So the question is, thinking about these opportunities and concerns, what are some possible actions from here? Just talk, if you can just jot down a few ideas within your little group. Oh, yeah.
Kia ora. Firstly, for me, it's about topic. We can't change that, but these times, we sort of just, a good example is with our uruparas. They get flooded and it's really hard for us to pull our bodies out of our uruparas. But like I said, with our cyclone that happened and all those people down there with their coffins flooding all over the place. I got a good example down at Raglan 20 years ago, and they were up in war down there because they had to move their coffins. 100 years ago, it was all covered by. With the water coming in, it's sort of fading away. That's another thing too for me is on my list is the topic.
Yeah. So this would be under the key concerns, is it? A key concern is tapu and how to respond to climate change risk that impacts on that. Yeah, so the question is, thinking about these things that we've identified, what are some possible actions from here for this committee, for staff to do to support this committee? Does that make sense?
Are we speaking to you, or
just speak with, if you could just have a little brainstorm with your group.
Size things right here, like, the Wasi top areas like, and that's what we did bring it up in our earlier conversations. But these, so, yeah, the importance of the culture sites and how do you put that there. The Matamata Māori and Māori. All those are very, very important. Yeah, exactly. So you can still do all that helps. Hearing these, as you mean. But I know what you think, I have them all the time, but then it's amazing anyway.
Because these
Information.
These are real good example of terrible example.
We share now.
All right, we'll come back. We'll just bring the group back together to finish off this session. So are there any possible actions that came to mind that we could take from here?
We must be taking up all the oxygen in the sort of room. I think it was on my corridor. We got two key things we can maybe do is in order to future-proof and protect the sites, our cultural sites, we need to understand who they are. And so cultural mapping, understanding the inventory around where are those sites. But there's a caveat on that, and Jill's remind us of data sovereignty and how we protect the knowledge and much of them around the sites. So if we know that there's a sacred site, how do we future-proof it from erosion or our core be falling out at the moment, which has happened in many other areas. So cultural mapping would be one to future-proof that sacred sites. Another opportunity that we can do is understand what international models are currently underway so that we can learn from our brothers and sisters overseas. And I'm not suggesting a study tour to Hawaii or Rarotonga because of the budget, but that was a joke, no enough. International.
I'm not going on any overseas trips.
But I understand international models, so exercise around research and other things.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Over here?
Yeah, no, we're just getting the right information just right now, so we can get all the data and see where we actually stand instead of guessing.
Yeah,
and that follows on with ours was around what information's already out there, the regional council. We just need to build on what there is and understand it and where the opportunities are.
and we made that as a point too, because the for example, that flooding zones that the regional council are doing, which is already quite contentious when that's impacting on where we can build homes on rural land, etc. And there's quite a discrepancy between the modelling and what long-term residents have actually report as well. So
All right, so thank you. So just to wrap up, I have one specific question, which is, would you like staff to organise a workshop with this committee and other iwi representatives with interest and expertise in climate change and in the environment to explore these issues more fully?
Yes, I think it'd be of value for us for the forum.
with that, if we're organising some speakers, would it make sense to
Combine it.
combine that? Because then we're not hearing mixed messages. We're actually hearing
Work together.
Partnership and action.
There we go.
Okay, Okay, so this might be an opportunity to bring council and the forum
Correct.
together
For those
to
speakers.
hear from speakers and to discuss these issues more fully.
Yeah.
Okay, kia ora, thanks very much.
Thank you.
By the look of that, he definitely original.
Someone move the information be received. Leo, seconder, Norm, Elizabeth, aye. Contrary carried. Most apologies, I have to leave now.
I'll safe travels, yeah, safe travels to my Manawhenua. I was born down there, yes, I know.
Thank you. Ladies.
Thank you, Tim. All right. Okay, so if I just take over, just got the Manawhenua Forum annual survey come out. Now, I believe have members been given a survey to fill out, or are they it's been circulated? Is there any?
Madam Chair, can I just make one statement? For the team here, just really proud of Hill and me and the people and the team
Great day.
we're doing. And so just want to acknowledge.
Acknowledge to Atahi probably for his efforts. I could hear the guitar yesterday down here.
Yeah, really proud to hear the people and me he's come forward. It's not a challenge or anything. I'm not putting that in front of you. I just want to acknowledge all that.
Thanks.
Tēnā ko te katoa, ko te rana te whakatataranga mai, engari ko te tirangi te whenua tipu, ki roa e noa ana, ko Andrew Pickard tōku papa, ko Margaret Pickard tōku mama, ko Olivia, ko noa, tēnā tātou. Of course, I'm bringing you the annual customer survey, team member survey. This is done annually, and I believe in the report we have shown that this is done for a very, very long time over a number of long-term plans. And this is more just to gauge the satisfaction, and this is reported on in our annual report each year. And so this one for this year will close out our 2021 long-term plan process. And then we will be, when we bring it back next time, we will be able to report on our 2024 process. So this was the question, the second one that is in the survey is the one that we report the data on. The rest of them just more information. So there may be opportunity in terms of maybe bringing this back if there are other questions that you would like to change or adjust. But the one that does need to stay is the second one around involvement in decision making. So that one has been set in stone. That one, I believe, was brought to the forum last year when we had these discussions around performance measures in the long-term plan. But as I say, if there is appetite to add in or change any of those other questions for that one, we can absolutely make word or join.
Any feedback, questions for you?
I think it's just really good if we can get as many responses as possible. I think that's the key. Feedback. Yeah.
Just again, leveraging of my newness, when I accepted the role from my iwi, one of the questions I asked Jill is, when you look back on your job, what do you hang your hat on? And often aligns to a Māori strategy or the partnership discussion that we're talking about. And so there's a well-being methodology, input, output, outcome, impact. So input, output, outcome, impact. What are we doing? Are we doing it well? Are we achieving benefits for our people in our community, in our hapori? And so in terms of a survey, that's how I measure my performance and my KPIs of what have I done for my community and my hapori. And if so, then I'm doing a good job, and this kind of reflects how well and how positive one's impact are to the community. So once you make that point, there's a pat on the back from your uncle at the marae is just as good as any survey in terms of how well you're doing.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's some wording that can be added to them.
potentially, yeah, there is potentially scope to maybe readjust some wording. But as I say, that second question around how satisfied are you that Tangata Whenua and Manawhenua status is recognised and have meaningful involvement in council in decision making. That one, I believe, was brought to the forum and was signed off on by council around performance measures. So I think that one has to stay as is. But there may be scope to relook at things like the scale. So maybe changing from a 10 to a 5-point scale, things like that. And also, I think maybe worth adding some context in here around bringing surveys to TMF and to wider groups. We've had these put in all with our colleagues in Waiaki and South Waikato and elsewhere. And the same issue comes up around, is a survey the best course of action? Is that the best way to gain this data? Should we be even reporting on things like this in an annual report? But it always comes back to the same answer, that there's no perfect way to measure something like a relationship or something like this, or aspirations even. But yes, this is what we've brought to the forum and has been put forward for the next long-term plan. But yes, if it could be filled out, that'd be great.
Just one last thing for Madam Chair, my question would be to my people, how well are who performing on your behalf? So it's outward facing rather than inward facing, like how good am I doing, how, so that's a picture of the contribution of the Manawhenua for the context of people.
Oh, that's it. No more dialogue. We'll receive the survey as to be circulated with Brendan. And if someone would like to move and second that, please. If none, second release, thank you. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Yeah. Great. And then the district plan update, you've got Nathan and, oh my goodness, new person, and I haven't Carolyn, sorry, I'll remember that now, I will not forget, sorry.
Ellie, review planner in the policy section, and there's a Matamata originally from Auckland, and it's going to carry on the brief update process that we do for our plan changes in just in summary format. So PC 49 Waharoa. So the council is now in the process of reviewing the community aspirations that came through in the hui and considering which of these could be enabled through district plan provisions as part of the plan change. It's anticipated the next steps will be for staff to put together an issues and options paper that signals the likely key objectives of the plan change, and we'll engage relevant experts as required. And then this will be used as the basis for a discussion with council, iwi and key stakeholders. Papakainga PC 54, which you're probably interested to hear about. Hearing was held in April with the council appointed independent commissioners. To date, we have the processing planner's right of reply report up on the website, and the planner has suggested some changes to the plan change provisions as notified, and this is in response to submissions. So notably, we have a change in the definition of Papakainga, and the planner is saying to ensure that Māori freehold owners who are not registered with iwi or hapu can be considered tangata whenua and utilise the provisions.
Sorry, can you just say that again?
She's made a change to ensure that Māori freehold owners who are not registered with an iwi or hapu can be considered tangata whenua for the purposes of utilising the Papakainga provisions.
How does that affect the definition of Papakainga?
Before, it wasn't clear that people in that situation could utilise the provisions, so she's just added in that clause.
There's an addition.
In addition. Yes.
There was. Sorry, the point was that that needed to be excluded, so that the whenua belonged to tangata whenua, Manawhenua, rather than the Taurahiri. Whether anybody from any other district can come and put on there.
So no, I don't think that's what the addition is. It's about a registration. So if you're registered with Ngāti Hawa, then I think what the issue was is that if you had connections with Ngāti Awa but weren't necessarily registered with them, you still have an ancestral link to the land, but you're not registered with a iwi authority. So it was about allowing for people that still had ancestral connections but weren't necessarily registered with an organisation.
Is there a requirement in the Papakainga plan to be registered with that?
No, I think there was just some confusion about whether or not the definition was excluding those people or not, and so that's why they added that in.
But if it's around, like you've said, registering, and then there's no requirement around registering,
No.
surely it's a moot point.
Well, potentially it is, but I guess it was just about more clarity.
So the wording that she's suggesting for this is Māori landowners who whakapapa to the whenua and their whānau. We can provide that report through Stephanie to members. The plan is with me.
Yeah, I think there needs to be hui of the Papakainga working group to consider these.
That's quite a significant
More clarification.
I think it's really hard to get around that because whakawhapa means a lot. And if you're not beauty to the whenua, anyone can come along.
No, I don't think it's not, the intention is not to allow for that, because that was very explicit. That it was just people that had ancestral ties to the land that could utilise these provisions. So I don't think it's not opening the gate to anyone more than what was originally anticipated.
I think the question is it unnecessary? And does it create confusion by its inclusion?
Maybe Carolyn will read out the whole definition, so we're not just giving you bits and pieces.
Yep. So the definition, and then the new edition, I'll read it all out. A development by tangata whenua on ancestral lands in their traditional rohi and established to be occupied by tangata whenua for residential activities and ancillary social, cultural, economic, conservation and or recreation activities to support the cultural, environmental and economic well-being of tangata whenua. And then note, for the avoidance of doubt, tangata whenua is not limited to iwi or hapu organisations. It includes Māori landowners who whakapapa to the whenua and their whānau, and the existing clause, individuals and whānau who are a member of iwi or hapu who are tangata whenua.
Sorry, could you just read the first part of that out again?
Sure. So this is Papakainga,
Yeah.
is a development by tangata whenua on ancestral lands in their traditional rohi and established to be occupied by tangata whenua for residential activities and ancillary social, cultural, economic, conservation and or recreation activities to support the cultural, environmental and economic well-being of tangata whenua.
Yeah, just I think in that first definition of who it's for is all that's needed. You don't need the bit added bit at the bottom. That's just my opinion anyway, because it says it in the first one. The purpose of the Papakainga is tangata whenua in their rohe. I forget the other definitions around it, but it was all in that.
Which provides for that ancestral link, it provides for the whakapapa, it provides for, I think that is what the additional clause is causing more confusion. It's actually not providing clarity.
So where to from here, given this feedback?
Well, I guess it's in the hands of
The commissioner
natives at the moment. Yeah. So
for whom there was a Bill and James.
So
So they would be aware. James would be aware, wouldn't he?
who would have submitted that needed to be added? Did that just come directly from?
but no, I think it came from submissions. So Kainga Ora,
And this is somebody trusting.
yeah. Yeah, the Māori trustee, they submitted on it as well, around the definition of kāinga.
I think we can include that. First submitted on that.
So in effect, they added that clarification bit instead of just saying it's covered in the first bit.
Yeah, so we already had the note. So there was the main chunk that Carolyn read out, which was the primary definition of public kāinga.
Yeah.
And then it had additional, for avoidance of doubt, this and this, which people are suggesting that maybe instead of avoiding doubt, creates doubt. But
yeah.
In our view, considering we were a part of public kāinga working group,
yes.
I can remember considering these initial comments from especially OT. Was it OT? No, Kāinga Water, KO. And we said no because we believed it provided more confusion.
Yeah.
Because, like we've said, there's nothing on the contrary of what they're trying to input into,
yeah.
which then provides more doubt instead of being quite explicit. So, how do we, I suppose, as the Papa Kāinga working group, ensure that the commissioners are aware of our view? As a Manawhenua forum?
Yes, it's too late. The hearing's done.
So this is an outcome of the hearing.
Yes.
So is there no opportunity to feed back on the recommendations?
30-day notification?
No. So what happens is they have the hearing where they consider the evidence or evidence before them, and then they close that hearing and make a decision. And once the hearing's closed, you can't add anything more to that evidence. You can't submit new evidence.
Okay, so who's agreed to add that additional clause?
It would have been, I guess, the planners involved. And it would have been in response to the submissions.
And there was no consideration of coming back to the iwi work group or the chair around that?
Yeah,
That's the resource consent system, eh?
Well, that needs to change because I from a Te Ao Māori lens, it has greater implications than maybe the lens that you've put on it. And did someone from a Te Ao Māori lens oversee that?
Yes.
That change?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Because the only other way is there an appeal process?
Yes.
There is an appeal process, but is it worth it for, I guess it's how significant is that?
This is why we work together, so that we don't have to go through those appeal processes. You know, it really unfolds the work that we've done.
Yeah.
And puts a disappointment on all the work that we did do.
I guess
understand the process.
Well, that's what submissions do. Submissions at the end of the day are considered, and because I guess it was KO and their background that was heard, and there was two. You put your trust in the two hearings commissioners, and that's where this has come from.
Yeah, and I guess often
it's not come from them.
Often you'll have it. Like obviously we have our point of view. Submitters have their point of view, and I guess often you end up sort of meeting somewhere in the middle. So.
The commissioners will have considered this, though.
Yes.
It's not that they haven't. The planners haven't done this. The commissioners have this because they're the decision maker.
Yes.
So they're the ones that are directing this in many ways, aren't they?
To a degree.
It's the planner's response.
Yes.
Planner's response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who? Yeah.
The planners have submitted this. Let's be clear about that. The planners have submitted this in response to the submissions, correct?
Yes.
So it's the planners who have made this additional clause. I'm clear about that.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yep.
Very clear about that. All I've sort of, after considering it, I believe that, a good process would have been to, I get timeframes and stuff, it is what it is now, but good process would have been to come back to at least the chair, Gary, iwi rep at Māori rep at the table to, and co-chair. I'm not saying it's the process, Adrian. I'm saying that, you know, that it's not the process. That's my point. It's not the process, is it? You could have done it. I'm not saying you should have or would have. I'm just saying it's not the process. So that's, you know, this is the whole conversation of when we were doing this square peg round hole. I drilled that into alley. It doesn't fit. So let's be open and have these discussions around it. But yeah, it is, you know, it is what it is now. But yeah, it would be good to understand how planners are going to actually interpret that to make it so that not anyone with Māori blood can come into the look and create a other kind of development. But that was the intention of it, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's why we work to keep it tight.
Keep it tight.
But does that open that opportunity?
Well, I guess through my lens, it doesn't. But
But it says to ensure Māori freehold owners not registered with iwi or hapu can be considered. But I'm a Māori. I have a piece of land. I don't whakapapa to here essentially, but I can probably throw a lineage, show you a lineage of a whakapapa. Because I whakapapa to Rauko, I whakapapa to Te Rangamoana, I whakapapa through my whakapapa. So that's what whakapapa is about how we all connect around the whole model. So when we stand on the paipai, we can acknowledge how we connect to you, whether it's South Island, North Island, wherever. These are the intricacies that are not widely understood, which is why we tried to make it tight. Because we understand them, we can, flaunt them as such, and including that.
I think that if I was Manawhenua, we should have been involved because we carry a force back on this. It's just a bit weird how this has gone through without us. If it's too late, it's too late. A lot of things are too late. And this is why Rauko was kicking up.
I think too, the sort of along the lines that Jill gave an example. For example, I could be a trust from the Tauihu from Nelson area and see an opportunity to purchase some land in the Matamata-Piako district and buy some land. I fit the criteria that I'm coming to Whenua, just not here. And I can apply for Whenua. But the point is, that's opened that door. That clause has opened that door.
You might need to go back for clarification a bit more, perhaps around that note.
Yeah, I can have a look.
Given the concerns, I think you got it clear what the Kororo here sort of feedback.
So I think what you're suggesting.
It's not only that; it's contradictory to the purpose of the policy.
So just so I'm clear, what you're saying is that arguably anyone can whakapapa to any whenua.
Technically.
No, it put in the context of that last clause is contradictory to the purpose of the papakainga, because it's defined in that first sentence, and then you throw a clause in at the bottom that's contradictory to that.
I think that is the point, because it says ancestral link, etc., etc. It doesn't say you can't be a Māori freehold owner.
And it doesn't say that you have to be a member of a Alvaniwi entity. The definition is there in that first brief.
Okay, to just get clarification, because there's some fish hooks here that
Send it back in the interest of common sense.
just that, I think it is out. So I guess I think there's some feedback there that we wish to provide in that with this recommendation of receiving this report. So if you want to got a note of that, we can provide that feedback. Is there anything else? Keep going down through your game changes.
And there was another change recommended by the planner related to density provisions. So potentially allowing 2 kaumātua units in a duplex building to be considered the equivalent of 1 kainga unit. The discussion at the hearing was that there's actually not much difference between the 2 smaller buildings and 1 building, that it just offers a variation on what had previously been suggested. In terms of the timing of the decision, staff made contact with the commissioners late last week, and they've advised that the decision will be available by the end of the month. In terms of plan change 55 Waitoa, that application was finalised in February and lodged with councils, and at a March meeting, council formally adopted that plan change for notification, and that application was limited notified on the 14th of May to those affected parties in the Waitoa community. Submissions on that close tomorrow. To date, I've had 1 phone call and 1 meeting with separate parties who wanted to discuss it, so it does remain to be seen if they will actually lodge a submission. So in terms of private plan change 57 Calcutta, due to delays, which were of the applicants making because they chose to put the application on hold, this has now exceeded the 2-year threshold in which a decision has to be made on a plan change. So to enable this to continue beyond the 2-year timeframe, approval is required from the Ministry of the Environment, and the applicant has requested that the council make an application for this to occur. Council is currently contacting existing submitters to obtain their feedback related to their proposal. Feedback's due in early June, and then it will be taken to council for a decision. And as I said before, this application is remaining on hold. National planning standards. We're continuing to work on reformatting the district plan to comply with the national planning standards. This work's taking a bit longer than expected, so we are hoping to have that before council in the next few months. And the intention is that the associated plan change, which covers the bigger requirements of the national planning standards, will be notified later in the year. The Resource Management Act reform is continuing at pace. Obviously, we've had the repeal of all the existing legislation, and we're in phase 2 now. So the fast track approvals bill is before Parliament, and we had the first of the 2 RMA amendment bills, and staff are currently reviewing this to see if there's a need for a submission, and the second bill will be out before the end of the year, with the phase 3, which is the whole review of the Act, starting next year. And the Hauraki Golf Forum, at the time of writing the agenda item, the forum was seeking member feedback on a draft submission related to temporary fishery closures, and the council indicated their support of that draft submission, and it's since been lodged. The forum met yesterday, and staff will provide an update to this forum once the minutes are available.
So yeah, go for it, Mum.
Does is a plan? What's the Māori plan that connects Iwi and council together? I think the plan that you ago. You going to work on? What's it for you?
Yeah, that's the relationship documents.
You're talking about the inspiration book.
We haven't got a name for that. I don't know any name. No.
I can see other. Oh, damn! It's always been. We're trying to establish a partnership document with that Iwi and the council. It's not the aspirational document. It's the other.
Right, mate. We're
It's actually going to come back to me. I think I've talked to myself about thinking. Yeah.
Oh, Manawhenua.
Yeah.
The mana whakahono arohi agreements. Are they still relevant? Yeah. Are they being wiped out like everything else?
As far as I'm aware, they're still relevant.
Then our main changes.
Oh, right.
Well, thus far they're still relevant, whether or not they remain relevant, I guess.
So that's the one of those keeping our home and ground type positions around how do we do our best to protect the treaty, rights and interests in any legislation requirements, and therefore Tamanata-Piako are enacting of that.
So a supplementary question, I suppose, to that is there a work plan to develop those manawhenua, what are they called? Or not arohe agreements with iwi?
I'm not aware of any because I thought it was initiated by iwi. They had to initiate the process and then we worked through it. Now I wasn't aware that anyone had initiated a. Yes, yeah.
I know that Tina Pillow, sorry, Madam Chief, for you, Tina Pillow and Matamata-Piako, I think she was one of the first who developed the agreement, and so certainly within our body here, we're looking at how do we establish one of those because it gives you rights and interests as one does in terms of a settlement. So what's the process to establish it?
I would have to double check and come back to you because it's been a long time since I've been involved in one. So yeah.
Have you been involved in one?
Oh, just very briefly. So when I worked at Taranaki, the iwi of the district got together collectively and developed or started developing one. Apart from Ngāti Runui, they weren't involved.
Because I see that item 8.8, there's a Te Manawhenua forum work program. I think the Manawhenua Aohi might be in there somewhere. Can't see it, but it might be.
Can we get clarity on the process?
Yep.
And then also put that on our work plan for the Manawhenua Forum, because I do like the whole joint one with individual iwi chapters.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think we have a certain time frame to establish one. Once the request has come through, I'm sure there's a certain time frame in which to establish one. So it is reasonably rapid once it starts.
Okay, so next hui is August.
Yes.
So it'd be good to maybe put it on the agenda for that, and it gives you guys time to.
So you just want to sort of update on how the process works at that point, or are you wanting
I mean, I could happily send you an email tomorrow or today to say, can we start the process? Is that the process? I don't know. So it'd be good to understand what the process is for Bridge, but also to get a work program on our agenda to actually work through that, to actually do it as a Manawhenua forum with iwi chapters, but also notwithstanding individually we're doing your own anyway. Like we did.
Yeah.
So we need to probably understand that from a council work program perspective as well.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah. And just furthermore, without passing the hot potato over to Tuatahi, I think there is a conversation around staff and capacity to deliver that, because this tono or request was actually made some months ago. I remember having a conversation with Ellie around the Manawhenua Aohi agreement. And the reason behind it now, it actually makes it even more important around all these changes that are happening and how a Manawhenua Aohi strengthens the partnership discussion rather than dilutes it with all these other relevant legislation changes occurring in front of us. So I think it's quite important that that becomes a priority, certainly from a Manawhenua Forum point of view, to protect our mana and to uphold our mauri.
Yep.
So perhaps with that, if someone would like to move the recommendation that information be received and that we raise those 2 points for feedback on the public kāinga additional note that Manawhenua are concerned with that. Deeply concerned. I don't know what the deeply concerned with the addition of that note and perhaps doesn't clarify it as much as it was intended. And the second note was around the
Manawhenua Aohi.
Manawhenua Aohi work. just to get some feedback for the next meeting.
So
So
te
you
mana.
have to move that now. And second, yeah, Gary. All those in favour, please say aye. I think it's carried. It's good. Like this is where there's good engagement and feedback. You know, like we can sit here and go through the process, but when there's some really constructive feedback, it's great.
And just for Jill's just asked me to explain what a Manawhenua Arohi means. Arohi means relation to the region, or his region. Whakahonua is to join, and mana is your mana. So basically coming together to join mana within the rohi is what te mana whakahonua Arohi. Just means to say that past 5 times.
Yeah. Peter Pan pit. Sorry. Okay. Thanks, Carolyn and Nathan. Now we'll move on to our 8.8, which is our Manawhenua. Oh no, iwi 8.7, sorry, I've jumped. Iwi representatives update. Is there anything that anybody would like to report on from their work in their
I just report on a couple of things. So, with respect to consenting, I just want to acknowledge the team in regards to the wastewater treatment plant application process and engagement there, and how that's now exemplar. It's now applied to the stormwater process as well. And as an example, we followed the same process for the Cambridge wastewater treatment plant, and it became the exemplar. We presented it at 4 national conferences, actually 3 national conferences. We've just been invited to another one, so it'd be great if we could present at a conference around the outcomes of that process and project at some stage in terms of a partnership and showing off how well we've done.
Well, it was smart bundling, wasn't it, too? There's a catchment approach. Yeah. So, yeah.
And just lastly, these are the big solar farm being produced somewhere around here, namely Charoha West, and so keen to see how that benefits our people in terms of energy hardship, reducing costs around power. So I think that's on Jules and my shoulders to try and provide for the well-being of our community in terms of energy creation, but also energy saving through our people somehow.
Yeah, because that one was handled through obviously regional council. It wasn't a district council resource consent.
Yeah, we submitted our CIA on that one.
True.
Are they looking to establish one in Matamata-Piako too?
Right, that everywhere. So at the moment, it's like one applications, district ones. Actually, that would be another good question. Is what's the amount of heaps of how many fast track applications are imminent in terms of this new legislation? Yeah, I will show like the planets.
Yeah, I don't know that we've received any fast track because it's the real big stuff. We haven't got.
Is the gold mining? The gold mining.
Horiki. Yeah, and with the wind farm and whatnot, they've got. Yeah, we haven't got that. We're just still in the primary sector. There might be some quarry stuff come up, maybe. I think there might have been an article about that recently, but yeah.
So Matamata-Piako.
Yeah, with Ngāti Hirarangi. So it's sort of not in front of us anyway.
And Jill and I are dealing with another kaupapa, which is the Tirohia wind farm. So it's renewable energy is hot at the moment. So we just want to protect our mauri in terms of the whāia. And with these benefits for our people, planet and purpose, certainly it's keen to knock on those doors as well.
Anything much happening in the Rokawa space that you'd like to mention, local?
I'm just waiting for my MOU from across the road with Bo. Also submitting a couple of papakaius, and I'm very wary of kākaro pātete pai te mana with these windmills together. Cold.
Righty.
Yeah, we've got nothing really, except that we possibly buy our next Manawhenua, who one of us will be replaced. A new mangai.
Oh, excellent. So, nothing stays the same. Okay. So I'd like to move that information be received. I see we do have a. Thanks, Gary. I move Gary seconded. Jill, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And then just finally, our work program update for June. Ticking along, but I think, yeah, just that additional for our next meeting to get the information on those.
Yes, but just as an update, myself, Hinarani and Rangi Tiamakoko met with our leader Tuatahi around the aspirational partnership document. Unfortunately, our council members couldn't make it. I think they were cool. So we're looking at having another one end of June. And so we're going to build on that aspiration document. And so that'll be great to see how that fits in terms of our work plan. So we're keeping ourselves on target in terms of our KPIs through the partnership aspirational document.
I think we're just, yeah. Right. That information be received as well. So we better have a mover and a seconder for that.
Right.
Thank you, Leo and Norm. Move Leo, seconded Norm. All those in please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. That concludes the meeting. But I believe Tuatahi, you wanting to come up and mention something? Deaf say? Not anymore. No. Okay. Oh, that's all right. Okay, so I'll declare the meeting closed, but lunch is there, so we need to